All right, we're back with another filming day. Finally, there's something to sit on. We're making improvements to the studio. Yeah, first, the Enigma from Tokyo World Premiere FaBled. It's here. Thank you. I promised Mr. Hammurabi TCG Hemmel. Yes, I've got it. We've got it. It's got the little stamp from Tokyo World Premiere. This is number 1 out of 100. So numero uno of Cien, and very happy to receive it. We're finally settled up with runaway number 1. Pat, let's go Runaways. Keep your Runaways journey going. Fino, Mr. Black with black envelopes coming through. Settled up with your captain, so you could go to him. And finally, we'll open this later. We got a little awesome piece from Gary from our Patreon. Thank you so much. There's supposedly something in the back, which we'll open in a little bit. All right, thanks guys. We're all settled up. All right. Welcome to FaBled Hunters.
I'm Yuanji.
I'm Saint.
And today we're going to talk about, I think, pretty controversial piece of stuff.
I don't know that it's so controversial. I think it makes common sense to me, but
yeah.
There's a lot of noise on the sellers and enthusiasts and collectors space in random chat channels and discords and whatnot. And I think it was relevant that we cover it and we provide some honest insights. I think you and I briefly discussed it, and we landed at let's agree to disagree and think about it a little more. But what's that new post? What's it called?
Yeah, so basically LSS has updated the retailer supplier policy page on June 17th. So it says changes to this policy. They added a unilateral retail price policy for USA and Canada. But basically, so before you have a minimum advertised price policy for USA and Canada, which is that sellers are not able to, they have a designated percentage, I think it tiers off depending on like how old the set is.
Yeah.
So it starts off at minus 20%, and then I think it tapers down as the set becomes more like removed from prints. But this applies to advertised price, so things that you put on sales posts, listed prices on marketplaces, etc.
That's what you can advertise.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, hold on. I just want to get the distinction because it says it's for listed. At the bottom, it says the intent, right?
Yeah. It says a retailer must not publicly advertise the price of a sealed product subject to MAP at a price lower than the applicable MAP, and then says the mediums would be like flyers, poster, coupons, mailers, inserts, etc. I don't think anybody's advertising on the radio or on TV. Internet auctions cannot display or have like reserved bid prices below MAP.
Okay. And MAP's been around for a while. It's about advertising and what you can do.
Yeah,
as
and this is
seller.
And this is like an industry standard that I think carries over from like a lot of other industries that use minimum advertised price. Most notably, it does not affect point of sale. So I don't know if you guys who are not as familiar with MAP from other retailers, sometimes you see if you're buying stuff on like Amazon or other online retailers, they'll have like a add to shopping cart to see the price, and that's why basically they have to, if they're offering a discount that is below some kind of like policy.
It's hidden. You have to actually check out to actually see it via the old MAP. And I think the controversial move is taking a firmer stance to the retailers with a uniform price, or UPP.
Yeah, so let's just read the unilateral retail price policy. So it says from all products releasing from July 12th onwards,
which is like now, because it's going to release after July 12th.
Yeah, LSS is moving to a unilateral retail pricing policy. They said this policy has been introduced as we believe the policy guidelines are clear to the expectations that are placed on stores. And so this is a means of promoting fair competition across all distribution channels. maintaining margin integrity for retailers and protecting Flesh and Blood's brand. Applies to all retailers that have a base of operations in the US and Canada. Failing to do so is a violation which may affect the non-compliant retailer's future ability to obtain Flesh and Blood products and or other sanctions discussed below. The sealed products to which this UP policy applies are listed below. This UP policy will be enforced until such time as announcement is posted. So basically until they update it.
Until they say so, yep.
Newly announced sealed products are also subject to this UP policy, and so it's Rosetta Boosters, Rosetta Blitz Decks, First Strike, Armored Deck Azalea, and now in the article they describe what the UP policy actually is. So UP policy applies to the actual sale price at point of sale, whether in-store or online checkout. And then he says, while every retailer is free to set its final sale price, failure to comply with this UP policy may affect the non-compliant retailer's future ability to obtain Flesh and Blood products and or other sanctions discussed below at LSS's sole discretion. So retailers who are found in breach of this policy will be given notice to remedy the breach within 24 hours. Otherwise, disciplinary action will be taken against them, which may include, but is not limited to, temporary suspension of supply, delisting from public store directories, C&D from the use of trademarks or copyright images, and or permanent termination of business relations. LSS has implemented this policy unilaterally and will enforce it unilaterally and at LSS's sole discretion based on the information deemed sufficient by LSS.
Okay, so I personally think it's not necessarily a bad move, but when I brought it up to you, Yuanji, you said that you absolutely hated it and you had certain takes on it, right?
Yeah.
So why do you feel so strongly about this on behalf of the retailers?
Yeah, I think my complaint is twofold. So the first thing is that it's being described as a unilateral retail policy.
Yep.
However, the regions that it affects is only the US and Canada. And so knowing about the way that business is conducted in the TCG world, there's oftentimes, for example, in regions such as like Europe or Asia, where it becomes profitable to conduct like an arbitrage.
Okay.
And so I believe that if you like fix the price at negative 20%, there is some margin to be made there.
Sure.
By, importing products from basically regions that aren't affected by this. So I don't really like the labeling of it as a unilateral policy because it is not unilateral.
It's a uniform.
But it's not. It only applies to North America, essentially.
Well, that's the largest region of Flesh and Blood. Are you arguing that it could be better implemented if worldwide it was the same?
Well, I think that when you're doing something like this, first of all, like I don't agree with the policy in principle, but I think that just even like the execution of it, my first like complaint is with the execution of it. Okay. I think that it's very difficult to police. Basically, you have to like get people to, I don't want to like make this like a political thing, but it's like some kind of like Gestapo kind of like thing where you're like expecting people to like report their stores who are like violating this policy at like point of sale. Okay. Kind of thing. Like, is LSS hiring somebody to try to like check out from these stores like every week?
I don't think they were doing the same with MAP in the past, and they're not going to create new jobs or hire new positions just
yeah. Well, I was gonna say like if you did, it's like it seems like a waste of resources. Okay. And so I think like just from like an execution standpoint, the policy seems poorly constructed. Okay. I'm choosing to frame my arguments in a semi-objective way. Okay. But I think my larger issue with the policy more has to do with in principle, I really dislike the idea of policing stores at point of sale, basically telling the store how to conduct their business. So you have to consider the fact that stores are like, this kind of makes sense if you have stores acting in bad faith. So we saw in the past there was an instance, for example, like if a store like Channel Fireball that gets preferential preferential rate compared to compared to everyone else, then you have like a real problem where, okay, like I get all my product 15% cheaper than all the other stores, and so I can just undercut everyone, still make a profit. I'm acting both in my best interest and also kind of being deleterious towards the brand. Okay. So I see the merit of stamping that kind of action out, right?
Okay.
But I would argue that probably like offering them such a preferential rate is more so like the root cause of this bad behavior.
Okay. That's true. Yep.
The main thing is that you're kind of like it has to do with like the relationship between LSS and the stores. So if you frame it like this, it seems more so that like LSS is kind of wanting to enforce this policy because it has a partnership type of agreement with the stores. They're business partners. They're working on ventures together, right? So you're by entering in this partnership with me, I am you're expected to somehow to uphold my kind of like brand value to some extent, and I like somehow like help you out in other ways.
Absolutely. Yes.
But I don't view that to be the reality of how the relationship between retailers and LSS is. I don't view it to be a partnership. I view it more as a consumer supplier type of role. And then like LSS isn't like even like necessarily the direct supplier, but basically like the retailers are indirect customers of LSS. I guess like technically the direct customers of LSS are the distributors.
Yeah, the distros.
But like you're basically the stores are buying LSS products in order to kind of conduct their own business. Yeah. The closest example that I could find for something that is kind of similar, where a publisher has kind of asked certain requirements for how a retailer is supposed to do business, is where Wizards has like WPN Premium. Yeah. So WPN Premium, for those who don't know, is basically kind of like a preferred status.
And WPN stands for Wizards Play Network. Last time I checked. Yeah. Right? For special store status of Magic the Gathering selling LGSs.
Yeah. So WPN status is kind of like a preferred status where if you go on the Magic the Gathering website, you can search up stores that are nearby to you. So any store that's WPN will show up in that list. That is some kind of benefit. Flesh+blood just does this for all retailers. Yep. But then the second thing is WPN Premium kind of carries with it a bunch of extra requirements. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, some of the requirements, but for example, you can't have like long boxes of cards kind of shown around. They have like a special way that you're supposed to conduct business. Okay. Your inventories are not supposed to be like your full inventory is not supposed to be like visible to the customers, or they're not supposed to be able to go through it themselves. Yep. You're supposed to have like somebody sort through it. They have WPN recommended like seats, garbage containers, etc. You're supposed to send like weekly, not weekly, like periodic kind of like tours of your store to make sure that the experience, the atmosphere is kind of like up to snuff. You have to have kind of like outward facing, I think, like Magic paraphernalia. Yep,
posters and whatnot, advertisements. It's got to be updated, and that will get you that treatment. That gets you special promos. You have to hold a certain amount of events, a certain amount of people. A lot of hoops to jump through.
I'm really glad that you mentioned the promos. So in addition, so basically that's like what Wizards expects out of the stores. So what do the stores get in return for it to be kind of like a true partnership type of agreement? Stores get special use promos for that they can sell. They get access to like additional inventory. They get preferential inventory via distributors, so that when you have, kind of like hot commodity items, like I remember when Commander Deck Black was like really popular. I think those made like a really big margin. I think WPN Premium stores were automatically allocated, like, I don't know, a case or two.
A certain number.
Some amount. And that's kind of like the extra perks that you get. So like Wizards is kind of like doing their part to like, they're instituting all of these kind of restrictions, but by instituting all these restrictions, they're saying like, okay, like if you meet these things, then I am going to, provide something extra, like some kind of like incentive value for you. Okay. So my main problem with how UPP is that UPP to me is on the same level of overreach as WPN Premium requirements, in terms of I am now at like kind of trying to dictate how you're conducting your business.
Yeah.
But it's like at the base level, and LSS I don't believe is at least not outwardly facing, doing anything to like support the store. So let's say if they release like a stinker of a set, right?
Yeah.
Just like hypothetically, they release like another set that's like I don't know, like Outsiders that nobody like really wants to buy.
Sure.
And
I'd say that's more Bright Lights than Outsiders.
Sure,
Yeah.
Bright Lights. So let's say they release another Bright Lights, and minimum advertised price is $80. Let's say the real price or the secondary market value of the boxes is like $50 or $60,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And you can make the argument, oh well, like nobody would actually be able to sell it for that price because of this policy.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, well, now you just have all of this like inventory, and you get basically like you get like a delta between like where people are willing to buy the product at and what the sellers like want to sell the product at. And so like when you enter this kind of behavior, you know, like I don't know, like the market would dictate that just like there would be no volume, like nothing would get sold essentially, right?
I understand what you're trying to say, but at the same time, I think UPP is actually a great idea because you mentioned $50 to $60 boxes, and $50 to $60 boxes ever since probably Toa, Tales of Aria, or the ELE set have been available on the market, and they've still been just, you know, floating around. And $50 to $60 boxes can be found because some retailers, especially in the US, are able to still eke out a $3 or $5, whatever it is, profit selling these boxes at $50 or $60, or normally around $60 a box, 240 a case. And I think that's exactly what LSS wants to prevent from happening moving forward. And they're doing so by targeting first, trying it out on their biggest region, which is North America. And at the same time, yes, I understand that you believe that retailers from across, you know, the rest of the world, Asia, Europe, wherever else that carries flesh and blood, will try to eke out a small margin. But at the same time, can't they just sell it for less or sell it for MAP and then even discount MAP privately in their own local regions?
Not if there's no buyers.
Okay, I understand your argument that there might not be buyers, but in an ideal world, if everybody just conforms to the UPP.
Yeah, but I live in the real world, saying like I understand, like I've seen this before. It's not like this isn't new. Even for sets that have sold really well, like I'm not talking about Flesh and Blood, but even for sets that have sold really well, there's always like an incentive for people from Europe or from Asia to, you know, ask for more than they need, and then to sell to the US. Like this is not like a.
This is not. They didn't just invent the wheel for the first time. I completely agree with you.
This happens all the time.
But at the same time, with MAP right now, or with the UPP, 20% off $109.90 is $87.92.
Yeah.
This is dictating that you cannot go under, provided Rosetta is the normal MSRP of $109.90.
Yeah.
You cannot go under $87.92 per box selling within the US at point of sale. At least if you're going to like have a receipt, or you're going to have it on your website, or you're going to have it in the store, don't sell it for less than $87.92.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying, that the world is not ideal, but their intent is so that stores can all play nice and not have a race to the bottom. Now, you mentioned WPN. I wanted to get back to WPN. I know you're very enthusiastic about this topic, and you've been talking a lot about it, but let's address the first WPN thing.
Yeah.
I had my run-in with WPN, and I learned about WPN from our mutual store that we have both frequented in the past, Montesi Comics, right?
Yeah.
You know the owner, I know the owner. His name is Jimmy. He's just Jimmy, no last names. But Jimmy, in 2019, which I know is a long time ago, he told me that, hey, Saint, this is a very, very sad day for Magic the Gathering, around the time when Ultimate Masters came out.
Yeah.
And the reason why was because around 2019, that was when Wizards of the Coast ended MSRP, or ended a suggested price for stores to sell.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. I was like, why, Jimmy? What are you talking about? He's like, just look, at the end, in the beginning, there was at least some sort of suggested price, and retailers had to stay within certain boundaries. But once the floor, got pulled out, then what will happen is that retailers selling Magic the Gathering are going to continue undercutting each other.
Yeah.
And so far, back to Flesh and Blood, that is what has successfully happened, where retailers are undercutting each other, even to the point that in a Rudy video, this is public because it's on YouTube,
Yeah.
Rudy has said that stores are out there often telling him, oh, look, please take my Bud Light for $35 a box.
Yeah.
And I think there was a time where Everfest first edition
Yeah.
was as low as like $28 or $30 a box
Yeah.
in volume. And that is not good for the retailers. I understand we're not in an ideal world. I understand
it's
people
not
are
like
going to violate.
yeah, but they're not like trying to do that. I like if they could sell it for more, they would. It's not like I don't think that the undercutting behavior can exist if the supply was lower relative to demand. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like basic economics 101. If you have, let's just say like for argument's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
There exists 1,000 boxes of Rosetta.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the demand at let's say $100, which is like around MSRP, is $2,000. Or sorry, there is the demand for like for at $100 is 2,000 boxes.
But you only have 1,000 boxes.
No, I understand.
Okay.
So like, what's going to happen like in economics?
It's all going to sell.
It's all going to sell, and the price is going to go up, right? Like,
Yes.
like there's some amount of like there's more people that want to buy it at this price than like the retailers want to sell it for. So you know the retailers are going to make a little bit extra money. This happens when you have really well selling sets that just like can't keep in stock. This is what's happening.
Like Mistale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So then you have kind of like the opposite problem. So like you have 1,000 boxes of Rosetta, and I'm not saying that Rosetta is a bad set. It actually looks like it's probably going to be a really good
Probably
set.
going to be really solid.
Yeah, but only 500 people want to buy it at $100. So those 500 people are going to get it.
They're going to get their boxes, but here's the thing. The stores are going to sell the 500 boxes at $87.92, provided most of the people play nice with one another, right?
No, that's not true, because like if there are fewer than 1,000 people who want to buy it for 87, then the stores are just going to be sitting on the inventory. Like
but
anytime
they're going to sell. They're going to sell 500 boxes out of the 1,000 successfully.
Yes.
And my point right now is, hey, let's take a step back here. Can we both agree that the supply and demand issue with Flesh and Blood worldwide, it's a big problem. It's a problem that you and I don't have the metrics on, and it's a problem that James and Legend Story Studios has a better handle on than we do, right? They have more information than us, just by definition.
I agree.
So, look, the 500 stores that sell those, are the 500 boxes that are sold by those stores, are going to net, if let's say $55 as a baseline cost number, they're going to net $33 profit per box, right? Then the other 500 will sit nationwide in stores, and they'll slowly trickle out. And eventually, those boxes will net the stores $33 per box.
But if the stores run into like a cash flow issue, like it's going to be,
and
like a big.
They're going to have to
problem.
take risks. They have other products they can sell, and they should learn to not over order. Versus right now, the reality now is stores are making even $5 per box. That means they're over ordering. If you need to sell boxes at $55 or $60 or $65, that means you over ordered. And let's just trust LSS to have the data necessary to have made this call.
But
I don't think they're making an emotional call here.
That's the problem. I don't trust them. If I was a store, I would just drop Flesh and Blood immediately, because I don't trust you. Because what you're doing is you're introducing an artificial price floor on your products that I'm able to sell.
They're not introducing. MAP already did that.
No. They're actually introducing an artificial price floor. Like what they're doing is basically establishing a price floor. MAP is like for advertised price. That's more for, in my opinion, like a marketing move rather than anything else, right? Like that, I totally get like how MAP like affects like your brand, whatever. Like MAP doesn't actually affect like my business model. Okay. And so like this only makes sense if you and I are like cooperative entities, right?
Okay.
The problem is that like we're not like 100% cooperative because you have incentive as the game publisher to sell a lot of boxes. Like that's just the fact. Like you make more money, the more boxes you print, the more boxes you sell through, like you make more money. That's just that's how.
Short term, yes. Long term, I disagree. If you print good product and it sells well every single set, and it sells through in a healthy capacity, then everybody wins, right? If the 1,000 boxes gets trickled out at optimal number at $33 profit per box, as opposed to everybody's clawing at each other's throats to sell it for 5 profit, 8 profit, 10 profit per box, which is what is happening right now, then essentially everybody loses, right? All the stores lose. And you know what? The players, I think, they want value too. If it's $88 a box and it's fixed, especially in North America, once again, the largest market for flesh and blood, then the EV, expected value, what you open up in a box, that will go up too, because single prices of the new sets will go up as well if it's artificially kept at $88. Right? We're saying $87.92 is essentially $88.
That's only true if you believe the demand is inelastic. I don't think that the demand, I think we're getting into kind of like way too much like economic theory here. I think ultimately at the end of the day, like my biggest complaint with this, like if I was a retailer, is that you can basically do like I'm not saying that LSS is going to, but you can do like some kind of like MetaZoo-esque like rug pull. Like you're basically creating an environment where you have all the leverage as the publisher, and you're not like giving me anything in return. Like you're just like asking for, you know what I'm saying? But like the problem is like that they don't actually have they're trying to like exercise leverage that I think that they don't actually have, because ultimately at the end of the day, like if the retailers decide to drop the game, like they're kind of SOL.
They are SOL short term. But here's again, hear me out. In the short term, I don't think 100% of U.S. retailers are going to drop flesh and blood.
No,
I don't think
not.
even 50%. Sure. Maybe let's say 20% of the retailers drop flesh and blood because they don't like the policy.
Yeah.
The 80% of the retailers that say, hey, you know what? I'm going to trust the publisher and I'm going to see how this works out, and I stand to gain $33 per box profit instead of $5 to $10 per box. That's, in an ideal world, that's what will happen. There'll be short-term gain,
it's just a gamble.
Long-term gain.
Either way, it's a gamble. Like you're gambling on the publisher. But I don't like there's no difference to me where if so basically it's like a gamble, except like by introducing this policy, you're like cutting you're like reducing my options, because let's say like I gamble on your product, I supply your product, I don't want to sell the boxes at $50-$60. Actually, most of the stores that sell for like $50, they're taking a loss on every box, but they just it's beneficial to have
50 is harder. It's got to be a bad set for 50, like Everfest and maybe Outsiders.
Even if you sell it for $60, you're still taking a loss. It costs you manpower to.
Of course.
You're taking
I'm just saying it's bad for the game at $60.
You're taking like an opportunity cost loss, like that's like cash flow that's like liquidity that you could have spent on something else that like made you money. Like in terms of the business, like you're taking, every time you purchase a product, you're making a gamble, and by like introducing this policy, you're basically saying, oh well, I'm like cutting your options, so I'm making it like a less profitable gamble.
But it's the right
you know what I'm saying? Like
I do understand what you're saying.
So I think that you're just like you're like disincentivizing stores from wanting to carry your product.
Well, it says you don't have to proactively drop the product. You can take the product, see how it goes, and then if you really need to sell out and risk a violation, then you sell out and risk a violation, and then it's the same as getting dropped. Or it's the same as you proactively dropping, except you'll have seen what happens through this Rosetta set. Another thing is, again and again, I've said that LSS cannot afford another Bud Light. And I also believe that with heavy hitters, and followed up by Partner Misspell, they've done a good job in releasing consecutive good sets.
Yeah.
I also think Rosetta looks to be somewhere, probably it's not going to be as fire as Misspell, but it's going to be heavy hitters or above.
Yeah.
And that will generate enough market demand. That said, that's why I said, well, I personally trust LSS. I don't completely trust them blindly.
Yeah.
If there's a bad move, there's a bad move. I'm on the boat that this is not a bad move. They'll lose a couple of retailers that don't fully trust LSS.
What is the point of making a policy that loses you retail? I just don't understand that.
They're actually, if you could take a bigger picture look at it, they're protecting the retailers. They're protecting the U.S. market, which is 50 plus, probably 60% of the global flesh and blood market, and that will trickle through to the rest of the market. Like you said about Channel Fireball, when they were selling $43 boxes, there were retailers from Asia saying, I don't know how I can keep my business going or keep flesh and blood on my shelves or even afford to carry it or buy it if a big mega retailer, Channel Fireball, is selling it $43, which is what happened prior to the Pro Tour 2022.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but that's like something that you handle like on a case by case basis, not with like a broad-based policy. Like okay, so here's my problem with it. I think that as the game publisher, what you should be doing is incentivizing stores to want to carry your product, and they do that. Like they show up at trade shows.
They do. They're putting a lot more budgets, and those displays and those booths are really, really pretty with Part the Misfit. We saw it in Japan. You were like, this is impressive. I'm sitting next to it, I don't need to learn how to play, but it's really beautiful. This is going to get a lot of people interested in the game.
Yeah, and I talked to Brian and Trevor at US Nationals, and I asked them about like that effort, and they told me that like that's a big initiative for them. In like going to the trade shows is not just really to get like more people involved in Flesh and Blood, but also to, just to show like retailers who are going to be there, like representatives from retailers, to be like, oh hey, like maybe I should like try to pick this game up and see if my customer base likes it. Okay, I'm never gonna like say that LSS is being like malicious with this policy, but I just think it's a dumb policy, because you're kind of like you have one initiative that's trying to like push like more retailers to want to like carry your product, and then you have like, in my opinion, like another like initiative that is kind of like moving you backwards, and you're just like, you're going like one way and then you're going like backwards in the other way. It's like two steps forward, one step back.
One step back, and sometimes you need to take another step back before you can take two steps forward. Again, I frame this way. Right now, there's a big problem with these boxes being $40 to $60, even $40 to $70 on the market.
I agree.
That's a problem, and there's no easy way out, right? It's a mess, but I think James and his team are saying, you know what, we got to take a little bit of risk, and you can't please everybody.
That's like a supply. It's like a supply risk. It's like, okay, like LSS made however many like millions of dollars. Let's say they made like $30 million last year, right? I'm just like
50 to 75.
Whatever. I'm just like making. I'm just making the number up.
Yep.
Okay, they made $50 million last year. Okay, so while they made $50 million, they printed too many boxes. They kind of crushed the market. They like, even though they made more money short term, I think they effed up. Okay, let's just.
Last year?
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion. Yep.
I think they printed too much bright lights. They printed too much outsiders relative to what like the real demand was.
Sure.
And kind of that's one of their kind of like jobs, I guess, or one of their
duties to the community, or duties to the ecosystem.
Right? I think to themselves, like in order for them to like run their business successfully, I think this is just like one of the things that you have to do. You have to like estimate demand properly, and then create the supply that's going to fill that out, so that you have like a long-term sustainable market.
Okay, but
so that's that. Okay, so that, in my opinion, is their like business duties. And so in my opinion, they effed up last year.
Because they printed too much.
Because they printed too much.
And they also had to either recall or buy back or just incinerate product.
Yeah, like they printed
warehouses.
Yeah, and before that they printed Everfest Unlimited. That was not necessary. Like that in my opinion is a business F up.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I actually fully agree with you, but I'm trying to say that this proves your point. You're saying, sure, they made 50 to 75 million, but that was by printing too much.
Yeah.
I'm saying right now, starting from Rosetta, the second half of this year, like we fucked up. You know what? We got to rip the Band-Aid off. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Maybe we risk making 35 or 40 million this year.
Yeah.
But we want to regulate the global economy on Flesh and Blood by making sure that people won't overbuy, right? People won't dump the product, right? Collectors will still retain value on whatever they purchase. Box openers will retain value in what they purchase. Players will get, product will be slightly more expensive, but more players will go to the stores rather than do these back channel deals, or rather than go on, sites like TCG Player and buy their boxes. And ultimately, the stores that, that still remain when the dust settles will make more money, and Flesh and Blood will be a more profitable game for them.
Okay, so my issue with that is that the lever that they're kind of using to like right their wrongs should be, in my opinion, on the supply side, right? So I think that they should just print less, and that is kind of like their way of business, like their way that they can like regulate their business. I think that they should just print less, and You know, it's funny because we have, I think, like a couple of examples of, in my opinion, pretty successful TCGs in North America. Lorcana and One Piece.
Ooh, that's another episode altogether.
No.
Lorcana just did the Ravensburger Amazon dump, so I don't think that's successful, and I don't think that's a good controlled supply.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, I think their follow-up was bad.
Okay.
But I think that, like, initially, so, like, these we'll just say, like, One Piece TCG. I think One Piece TCG is actually doing rather well.
It is, but their re-release of the old products has tanked the market price by about 50%.
That's fine.
I know it's secondary market.
Who cares about the? I don't care about that. I'm just saying, like, from the retailer's perspective, right? We're just talking about B2B.
Okay.
So you underprinted relative to demand, like the product. Like they basically they underprinted. They made less money. Like Bandai made less money than they could have at the beginning when they released One Piece TCG in English version, right? They basically, like, they could have printed a lot.
And you mentioned English version. I mean, One Piece has their own problems. We just went through this exercise, right? We had a distributor in Asia say, oh, look, we've got an excess, a surplus of One Piece boxes.
Yeah.
Let's sell it into America. And then we learned that, without mentioning the distributor, the country, the language, that it's region locked. And that's really greedy business behavior, because you cannot play multiple languages. I cannot play, let's say, Chinese One Piece.
Yeah, you can't play
and
Japanese
you can't play
cards.
Spanish One Piece, or I can't play Japanese, and you can't play French One Piece.
Yeah,
it can only be American or English One Piece.
Well,
and I think that's greedy behavior, and that's not conducive to a global economy.
Sure.
And that's the shortcomings of One Piece right there.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm saying, but, like, in terms of, like, for retailers, like, One Piece is a great product because you stock One Piece, you're gonna sell it. And, like, that's just what it is. Like, you sell it at MSRP, it's gonna sell through. You sell it above MSRP, like, in a lot of instances, it's gonna sell through.
Well, okay, I understand that Flesh and Blood has made mistakes. I recognize those mistakes. I recognize those mistakes all the way up to Bright Lights. However, you mentioned they need to cut their supply. They've been making their adjustments to supply since Heavy Hitters. And I believe they've been much more successful in Heavy Hitters. They're successful in Mistveil.
Yeah.
And Mistveil first wave is sold out. People are waiting for a second wave.
Yeah.
And I believe that they can keep it going for a third set.
Well, no. So I'm not saying that they messed up. I'm just saying that is, in my opinion, the lever that they should, pull. And I agree with you that I think that they've been doing a better job with the supply.
But you're still saying that this move is really, really bad.
Yeah, but I think that, in my opinion, that is the only thing that they should be doing in order to try to increase the actual sell price of the boxes. You know what I mean? Like, if that is a point that is important to them, they basically have to, like, bite the bullet and be like, okay, I'm gonna make less money short term if I want to protect my. It's like a balancing act. Like you do, like, the analysis. The 4 quadrants. Like cash cow, whatever, expansion, whatever. There's like different strategies that you employ depending on, like, what the stage of the business you're in. And I believe that Flesh and Blood is still in an expansionary.
It is.
Stage. So, like, you have to take some risks. And, like, do I think that it makes sense to just be, like, milking your product for, like, max money? I don't think so.
They're not milking the. If it costs LSS $40 to make, they're still getting their $45 back.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is, I think at this stage, it seems to me that it would be prudent to do as many things as possible in the direction of retaining retailers and making like the business proposition for retailers to keep stocking Flesh and Blood a good one. Okay. And I think that it also makes a lot of sense to have initiatives that increase the number of retailers that carry your product, because you are in an expansionary phase of your business. And so that's why, to me, it seems ridiculous to implement this type of policy. And we said at the beginning, like, I don't think that we're going to make any headway in terms of convincing each other.
Probably not. And it's okay, but we're discussing it. We're providing different perspectives.
Yeah, that's okay. And then, so, like, that is my main gripe with it, is that it just seems like I am never going to, even though I frame the context of it as, like, oh, well, maybe LSS can be, like, adversarial to the retailers, whatever. I'm not actually saying that they are, but I'm saying that in terms of, you know, life, economics, what a business, whatever you want to call it, it's all about like creating like proper incentives to get people to do what you want. And I think that this policy is just creating really bad incentives. Do I think that LSS is like maliciously trying to like juice their retailers to like sit on inventory? No, like that doesn't make any sense. Like that's stupid, right? Like it doesn't make sense to make enemies out of your customers.
Okay, I agree with you. And you mentioned incentives. Let me get this in right here.
Yeah.
Okay, this I believe is a classic case of prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
where there's many. I don't want to call LGSs prisoners, but for all intents and purposes, in this example, the local game stores are prisoners, and the prisoners have two choices. They can either screw over the other prisoners, right? And they'll get short-term gain. They'll maybe like, I get out, but the other prisoners are screwed.
Yeah.
Or they can cooperate with the other prisoners and say, okay, let's all get a lighter sentence. Let's all cooperate.
Yeah.
Long story short, if everybody cooperates, they end up a much more optimal place. And that's what that's the option LSS is giving the stores right now. I don't expect 2,000 prisoners to all cooperate. But this is game theory, right?
Yeah.
If everybody cooperates, everybody makes $33 a box instead of $10 a box.
It's funny because like you say that it's like prisoner's dilemma, but like I view it as like LSS and the retailer are the prisoners.
Okay.
And they can either agree to cooperate with each other.
Okay.
Or like that's what I'm saying. Like you need like some level of trust in order to be like okay with this type of policy.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that in the real world, like whenever you like face like prisoner's dilemma situations, it's like game theory optimal to like compete with each other in a lot of instances.
Well, in a prisoner's dilemma, at least the classical reading of it was all the prisoners confess and say, hey, I want a later sentence. I want to do a plea bargain. Let's just all agree to confess and say what we know, so we'll take the deal. And that's at least in classical economics. You went to school for economics, I did as well. That's literal.
No, it's not. It's but like cooperation is never like the outcome. Like there's entire strategies like what's it called, the mutually assured destruction. Like you're like creating strategies where if you what's it called, where you
compete or you go against whatever is set, you could screw yourself over, which is not get to sell flesh and blood anymore. Right?
Yeah. So like I think that what's it called? Yeah, but like in prisoner's dilemma, like the most common outcome is that both of the prisoners screw each other over because
they're both screwed and they both do maximum jail time.
Yeah, because that's like the optimal way for you to like play the strategy.
No, we could agree to disagree on that one, but if you look up Wikipedia, it's gonna be there, man. It's that if the prisoners both take the plea bargain and both play well with each other and don't try to throw each other under the bus, everybody gets a lighter sentence, and that is the optimal.
No, result. But that's like that's the most
textbook.
No, but that's the most. I don't.
It's hard to it's hard for it to happen.
It doesn't happen.
You're saying human nature is that we want to.
No, I'm not saying that's human nature. I'm saying that if you're operating selfishly, you will never cooperate.
Well, we're saying the same thing then.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is an opportunity for the U.S. LGSs that are loyal to Legend Story Studios to operate unselfishly, see the bigger picture, that they can make $33 a box instead of $10 a box.
Yeah, but I just think it's stupid to create a policy which requires everybody, like the ecosystem, to play nice, and I would rather you just like set up incentives where all the parties can behave selfishly and that you're like achieving your desired outcomes.
But unfortunately, I don't think the US LGS ecosystem of LGS owners are as optimally thinking or forward thinking as maybe some other regions, and they act sometimes self-destructively, or oftentimes self-destructively, and end up out of business because they use their LGS as either a hobby business or as a flex business, which we've seen throughout that whole COVID era.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I'm saying but this to be the case. Like, why would you? That's why I'm saying I think it's like a stupid policy, because in order for it to work, everybody has to cooperate, and I'd rather you just like print less boxes and then just have everybody be out.
Print less boxes. Yeah, so people are still screwing each other over.
So just print even less boxes. Make less money. Make everyone like you know what I'm saying? Like if nobody could actually stock part the misfail, then it would be like $150. Like, do I think ultimately that's like the best case scenario?
That's even worse for the players, though.
Who cares?
Well, the players care.
I'm just talking about this from the
store perspective.
From the perspective of you interacting with your customer base and doing what you can to best like improve your business going forward.
Okay.
I'm not talking about any of the other factors.
Okay.
I just think that from that perspective, it's a bad move.
I understand. I don't completely agree, and like we said at the beginning, we would not resolve this in agreement.
Yeah.
However, I would like to give you the last opportunity to state any additional points, and I want to close just with one thing, because this is my one chance out of millions of episodes, not millions, but hundreds of episodes to actually be positive.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
They said, the caveat of all this is they said that they would be open to changing these policies as time went on.
Yeah.
This is just for the recent releases in, call it Q3 or Q4, or the second half of the year of 2024 for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that they started out with a UPP, and imagine in 90 days, it gets lighter. It goes to a map, 20% map. And then people can do their own back alley deals and whatnot. And then in 180 days, it goes to 35% map, where they could sell for 65% whatever retail price. Instead of $88, it goes down to like, I don't know, 72 or something like that. And it scales down, but the new sets keep having this UPP. That's going to give more protection to the individual stores, whether they like it or not, whether they compete or not. Whoever is remaining holding Flesh and Blood and carrying Flesh and Blood products, in the long run, after this quarter or 2 quarters period, will come out on top because of this policy. I think they're thinking of the long game. I think you're saying they should just print less altogether and voluntarily make less money. They're not trying to make money here. They're trying to fix the market. Both ways, they're trying to fix the market. And I would just encourage the people out there who are actually going to their local game stores to continue supporting their local game stores, and for the local game stores to have a little bit of faith, because I think we both agree that Heavy Hitters and Part the Misveil are 2 damn good sets. Part the Misveil even better than Heavy Hitters, but Heavy Hitters a lot better than Outsiders or Bud Light, and they're going in the right direction. So that said, I encourage you all to stay positive, and hopefully this was a good episode. If you agree with Yuanji, state your points. If you agree with me, state your points. See you guys in the comment section. Thank you so much. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, twiddle that notification button, and support us on Patreon, where we are going to carry this conversation further and talk about the other ramifications of UPP. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
But handshake before we leave.
Yeah, we're good. We still get along.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much to Gary. It came in a Gariful world premiere little slab or little card holder. Hopefully I'm doing this right. Oh man, he did an altar. What is this card, Yuanji? Do you know?
It's like talk a big game.
Talk a big game. Okay, that's a pile of gold. This is 18, 19 of 41. Okay, with the signature from Tomas. And woo, it's an artist proof. Wow. I don't have many of these, so much appreciated, Gary.
Wait, is there something inside, or is it just one card?
No, that's the card.
Okay.
That's the card, and it's got my sticker on it, and it's in a heart sleeve. That's really cool. Why is there only 41? I thought there'd be 50. But appreciate the altar. It's like a little version of Rudy, so again, much appreciated. Oh, he's got Ladies of the Night there. Awesome, man. Good choice.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.